This video will provide the solution to the map production exercise. You are asked to make a Lebanon County geology map for the first map. To do this, the first thing we have to do is add the data. To add data, we click on the Add Data button, and we navigate to the location on our computer where the GIS data layers are stored. I'm going to select Lebanon Geology, and then I'm going to hold my control key down to also select Lebanon Townships. We click Add, and both of the data layers are added to the map. Before we go on, we have to just select the display projection for Lebanon County. To change the display projection or the data frame projection, we can double click on our data frame, go to our coordinate system tab in data frame properties, select projected coordinate system, state plane, NAD 1983 US feet, and then we scroll down to Pennsylvania South. And when we do this, we see that it puts Lebanon County in a state plane projection, which is appropriate for a map of this nature. So the next thing that you're being asked to do is to put the Lebanon Townships on top of the geology and then to hollow out the townships. To do that, you simply just double click on a single click on the symbol, which will open up the symbols selector, select hollow, and you can change the outline width and color to your design choices. I'm going to click OK, and now we have the benefit of having not only the township data that we can also see the underlying geology. So I just hollowed out those boundaries so I can see both at the same time. Now that that change has been made, before I leave the Lebanon Townships data layer, I'm going to double click on it and go to the layer properties into the general tab. And I'm going to change this file name into plain English. Remember, we want to change things like this because our map audience may not understand what our file names mean, so we want to spell it out for them so that it's completely clear what it is that they are looking at. I'm going to click OK, and notice that that takes effect over in our table of contents. The next thing that you are asked to do is to label your townships. To label townships, we can right-click and go to Label Features. But what happens here is that it doesn't label on the field that we were hoping that it would label on. So we have to tell ArcMap which field from the attribute table that we want to label. If you're not sure which field has the name of the municipality in it, you can simply open up that attribute table and take a look at what the field name is. And in this case, it's called Municipal 1, so that's the field that we're going to label on. To do that, we double click Townships to open up the layer properties. We go to the Labels tab, and then we select Municipality 1 from the list of fields, and then we can change our symbols, the properties for them based on our design choices. And I'm just going to bold it and then hit OK. So now we have our townships labeled, and that's useful because you have to remember that not everybody knows which township is which, and it just helps clarify for those that might not necessarily be overly familiar with the geography of this particular area. We now want to go to our geology data layer, and we are being asked to symbolize our bedrock geology based on the lithology 1 field. Again, if we open that attribute table, we can see what kinds of things that we could be symbolizing upon, but again, we're being asked to do it on the lithology of the bedrock. So to do this, we double click on our data layer, we go to our Symbology tab. Because the data within the field is text, within the lithology 1 field is text, we want to select categories, and then we want to select a lith 1. Notice that this doesn't automatically appear in here, so we click Add All Values. Uncheck this so that doesn't show up in our legend. And we're going to delete the lith 1 from here so that it cleans things up. We're going to hit Apply, and notice that that takes effect on our map. So we have a basic map showing now. The one other thing that you were asked to do in this area is to get rid of the outlines for each of the symbols. And that's what you're seeing here is this outline. The reason we're doing this is just to clean it up a little bit and make it look a little bit more aesthetically pleasing. So you right click on any symbol, properties for all symbols, and then we change our outline color to no color, and then hit OK, and OK, apply, and notice how that does end up cleaning it up a bit. The last thing I'm going to do before I get out of my layer properties is go to my General tab and again rename my data layer to put it in plain English for my audience that might be looking at this map. And I'll hit OK. So now that we have things labeled and symbolized as we like, we are going to switch to layout view to start adding all the necessary map elements. Before we do that though, we need to go to File and Page and Print Setup. If you remember from the video, it was mentioned that you should try to match your paper orientation to the orientation of your data. In this case, Lebanon County is a little bit on a diagonal, so it's going to be a little bit more trial and error to figure out which actually works better, landscape or portrait. I'm going to go with landscape, and I'm going to make it 8.5 by 11, and then I'm going to click OK. And now I'm going to switch to layout view. And remember, there's two ways to get into layout view, from view, layout view, and down here at the bottom with these little quick links. And I'm going to select this one. Now that we are in layout view, we have to resize our data or map to fit within this light gray line that you see. That light gray line is our margin, so all the map elements that we're going to be adding, including this line that goes around the map, have to be just inside of it. If it's on top of it, it will be outside of the map, and when you go to print it, you won't see your neat line, so you have to be careful of that. So now that I have everything positioned within the light gray line, and again, to move this around, you just use these little blue boxes to stretch your map. Notice that Lebanon County is very small and there's a lot of wasted space around it. To tighten this up, we just come over to our table of contents, we right click, and we go to zoom to layer. And this zooms us in on Lebanon County. I'm going to do one last little thing. I'm going to grab my pan tool on my tools toolbar and just nudge it over just a little bit so I have a little bit more room over here to put my supporting map elements. Now we can go to add those elements. To add each of these elements, we just work down the insert menu. So we go to insert, then title, and then put in a title. I'm going to just call it Bedrock Geology. And then hit OK. And I'm going to place that around here somewhere. Notice how Bedrock Geology has a light dashed blue line around it. That means that it's selected, so when it's selected, we can change its properties. We can change the font size and color and so forth. I'm just going to pick Gaudy Old Style for my font, and I'm going to bump that up to a 36, and I'm going to bold it. So now we have our title. I'm going to put in another title as a subtitle, and I'm going to double click that to call this Lebanon County Municipalities. And check my spelling, and then hit OK. And I'm going to change it to the exact same font as my title, and I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. To align these a little bit better, you can select both of them by drawing a box around them, then right clicking and then going to align center, and it centers those for us. We can also then group these as one element so that we can move them around as one element rather than two. And again, we just select both of them and right click and then go to group, and now it becomes one unit. The nice thing about this too is when you grab one of these sizing handles, it will resize it for both of those. So there's our title and our subtitle. The next thing that we're going to add is going to be a legend. To insert a legend, we go to Insert, Legend, and then you tell it what you want to include in your legend. Now, I'm not going to include townships in my legend because I don't think it's necessary. They're labeled on the map, and I think it's pretty obvious what that is. So I'm going to take those out of there just so that my legend has just the bedrock geology. Down here, you can select the number of columns that you want to have, and I'm going to play around with that maybe a little bit later. I'm going to first see how this looks as I'm going through these different dialog boxes. From here, you can put a title to your legend should you wish to. You can change the font and style and so forth. And you can add borders, backgrounds, and drop shadows. I would argue in a case where you have a nice white open white area that you don't use any of those. So I'm going to hit next. I'm going to hit next to this. This is just telling us what the spacing is going to be. And then we click finish. And then we get our legend. And in looking at this, you might decide, well, this doesn't really fit the way that I like, or it's just not working out very well. So you might opt to make some changes to it. To make changes to your legend, you just have to simply double click it, and it gets you back into your properties area, and you can go through these tabs. So I'm going to maybe add 2 columns and see what that does for me. And I think I'll stick with that, because I know that I can just grab this little sizing box and size it to fit in the area where I would like it to be. So I'm going to stick it down. Maybe I'll put it up here. I'll move things around a bit. Now that we have our titles and legends, we can add a north arrow by going to Insert North Arrow. And we can tuck that in a corner. And then a scale bar. I'm going to take the first one. I'm going to go to Properties. I like using the option when resizing, Adjust Width, so that we have control over all of these areas. I'm going to use 5 miles as the division value. I'm going to use 3 and 2. And I just, this is tends to be what I always use is 3 and 2, because I've learned that it gives me usually pretty good results. The thing is, you can change that if it doesn't give you good results. It's very changeable. So I'm going to hit OK and OK again. And now I have a scale bar for my map. And I would put that somewhere on the paper. The last thing that you might want to add, and you don't necessarily have to, you might want to add your name or a date or something like that. To do that, we just go to Insert Text, and it puts it right here in the middle of the map. So you double click that, type in the date or whatever it is that you want to put as extra text. And then you click on it and move it to an appropriate location. After we're done with this, we would go to File, Save As, and we would save our map as an MXD. I'm going to call it Lemon Geology. And after we save it as an MXD, knowing that that's not something we can share easily with others, I'm going to also export it as a PDF. To do that, I'm going to go to File, Export Map, and then select PDF, and I'm going to keep it called the same thing as I did my project. Hit Save. Now when I go back to my desktop, we can see that we have our map as a PDF. So that it was the solution to the first map that you were asked to create. The second map that you were asked to create was the map showing the number of bridges in each Lebanon County township. So to do this, we're going to click the New button. We're going to create a blank map. And then we are going to add the appropriate data. I'm going to actually switch back to Data View to do this. So I'm going to click my Add Data button, and then I'm going to add a file called Bridges Townships. And this is a map of townships, but one of the fields in the attribute table called the count field, as we scroll over, This count field is telling us how many bridges are in each of the townships. So now that we have the data added, we have to change the display projection for the map. To do this, we go to our data frame, then data frame properties, then we select the appropriate coordinate system. Because I used that in my last map, you're going to probably see it in here under your favorites, so you can actually select it from there should you wish to do that, or you can drill down as we did in the last one. I'm just going to take the shortcut there and hit OK. Now that the data frame is looking the way that we want, we then need to symbolize our bridge data layer. And because the data in the count field is a number or a quantity, we're going to be making a graduated color map showing how many bridges are in each township. So to do this, we double click on the data layer. While we're in the general tab here, we are going to change the data layer name to number of bridges. And then we're going to click on the Symbology tab so that we can select quantities and then graduated color. We are going to select the count field because that's the field that has the number of bridges in it. And then we can select a color scheme that progresses from light to dark. So it basically means from few bridges to more bridges. You can select a scheme that you think would work well. I'm going to select this blue scheme. I'm going to hit apply so that those changes take effect. And if you want, you could go in and change the number of classes to, you know, either less or more than 5. 5 is usually a good number. Again, you don't want to go more than 7 because these colors will become hard to distinguish from one another. And then you could also go in and change your class breaks to round these off. Like I might change that to 50, this to 25, 15, 10, and I would keep that at 2, and then hit OK, and then hit apply, and you notice that it might change these just a little bit. So now that we have that symbolized the way that we want, we probably should think about labeling our counties or our townships because, again, not everybody might know their townships. So I'm going to go to the Labels tab, and I'm going to select the field that we're going to be labeling upon, which is the Municipality 1. We can bold that, and we can hit apply. And we also have to check this to actually label them, and hit apply, and it labels our townships. Now, some of these might be a little bit difficult to see, like Jonestown's difficult. Any of the ones that are in the darkest blue color are hard to see. So to make those pop a little bit more, we're going to select Symbol, then Edit Symbol, and then we are going to put a halo around it so that they just pop a little bit more. So I'm going to hit OK, OK, and OK again. And now we have our labels where we can see all of them pretty easily because we have that halo. The one thing I'm going to do before we switch to layout view, this count underscore that you see here is telling what field it's being symbolized upon. And that really doesn't mean anything to the map user, so we want to delete that. So I'm going to single click on it and single click on it again to delete it. Now we're ready to go into layout view, but before we do that, again, we're going to go to Page and Print Setup. We're going to select our orientation for our paper and the size that we want. I'm going to just hit OK and then go into layout view. Again, the first thing that we do is we resize the map appropriately to fit in the space provided, making sure everything is in the light gray line. We come over to our table of contents and go to Zoom to Layer. We position Lebanon County where we want, and then we start to add the various map elements. So I'm going to go to the Insert menu to start to do this. So the title for this is going to be Number of Bridges. And there might be a better title, but that's what I'm coming up with at this moment. and hit OK. And then to show you a different way than I showed you in the previous review, you can just copy and paste this title so that it has the same properties. So I'm going to then just double click that to change the subtitle. I'm going to put in Lebanon County Municipalities. And hit OK. And now we have both. So the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to align center them. And then we can come here and make changes to it if we wish to change the font or the size. I'm going to keep Arial for this one, and but I'm going to change the title to a 36. And actually, I'm going to move the other one out the way a little bit, and I'm going to change that to an 18. And again, I'm just going to click on them both to make sure that they're still aligned center, and then I'm going to group them together. And then I'm going to move them off over in that area there. The next thing we're going to add is going to be the legend. So we go to Insert Legend, and I'm just going to keep that there, and we can move through this. I'm just going to click OK for everything so that we get our legend. And I'm actually going to just tuck that down in this area here. We can then insert our north arrow. I'll select a different one than previously. And then we can also put in a scale bar. And again, I like the adjust width option. I'm going to make this a little bit different than my previous one. And there we have our scale bar. And again, I'm not saying that this is the best positioning for everything. That's something you can fuss with a little bit more, and it can be a time-consuming thing to get everything positioned just the way that you like. If you end up making maps of the same area, for example, all maps like Lebanon County Townships, you tend to start adopting a style that you use to create those maps because you learn where the elements fit good or well based on the shape of the county, and you'll notice that because of the shape of the county, you have a lot of area up here, so a lot of your elements might go up in this area or down in this little small area. So let's imagine that we're completely done and happy with this map. We can save the map, and then we can also export it as a PDF. So I'm going to go to File, Export Map, and then PDF. And if we go to our desktop, we will see our Bridges PDF here as well. So that's the solutions for the two maps that you were asked to produce for the map production part of the course.